This is Colin Stevens with the Better Men Connect podcast. Our goal is to educate and inspire you with authentic and honest conversations that can help you enhance your health, your relationships, and your overall personal growth. Thanks for tuning in. What's going on, guys? It's Colin Stevens here with Bruce Stankavage, and we're here with the Better Men Connect podcast. Really glad that you guys are with us. Just a short introduction for Bruce because he hasn't been on one of the Better Men podcasts yet, but Bruce is a great friend of mine, and he has a master's in counseling psychology, and he's also, we became friends through basketball and sports and his kids, and so Bruce and I have gone down this journey probably for the past 13, 14 years. It feels like a lifetime, but
right, absolutely.
of desiring to better ourselves, and we've held some Better Men retreats in the past couple of years, and so we're just turning up the notch on doling out information and trying to facilitate some guidance through manhood, fatherhood, being a businessman, being an entrepreneur, being all the stuff, right? And really just opening up the conversation, right? That's what we want to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's great to be here. I'm excited.
Yeah. So Bruce is, he's got some awesome insight, and he played college basketball. He's married, he's got kids. Kids are awesome athletes. And he's also been in the storage business and real estate for the longest time. And he does a bunch of other stuff too in some really good ways. And he's an impactful person in my life. And he's got some great insights. So I'm really excited to have these conversations. And so with that, we're going to get right into it. All right, guys. Today we're talking about, because, Bruce and I have these talks often, but we're going to talk about what our younger self would need to hear. Because, I'm 41 now. Bruce, you're
54.
54.
Ouch.
Looking like 29. So oftentimes, we look back and we go, damn, if I had only known this 10 years ago or 20 years ago, or, then how much better off would I be? And so just to kind of kick it off, what do you think, like if there was one main theme, one main message you could tell yourself maybe at 20 years old, like what would you say that you think might alter the maybe not the direction of your life, but maybe that would make life better for you from that age on?
Right, great question. Several things come to my mind in that. I think the first one being that being anxious is okay, and that I can still perform at my best when I am anxious. I struggled with anxiety before basketball games for 2 years in college. I would throw up before games, and I was all alone and by myself in there. But I always thought that I tried to fight it or stuff it or put it aside. But if I just it's okay. It's okay to be anxious. It's okay. And guess what? I can still be anxious and I can still go out there and dominate the game and do well. Because that anxiety before the game took a lot of joy away from it.
Okay, so then what was the anxiety telling you? If it was not telling, you're saying that it's okay to be anxious.
Right.
Then what was the message you were getting from your anxiety?
Right. That's a deep question.
It is.
I wasn't ready for that. No, I played sports. And my sport was basketball. It was an identity thing that I had to play well to feel good about myself. I only felt worthy if I played well. And so there's a lot on the line in those games. And so it was just an intensity that I have to play well so I can feel loved, at a core issue. And so that was a lot of pressure that I felt.
And you didn't understand this back then.
Oh heck no, I didn't know. It's only in the last 15 years that really I could put words to it. But yeah, it was just this overarching just sense of pressure to perform, you know, and what I've learned as I've gotten older is that I'm not the only one that struggles with that. Like, there's more people out there that struggle with that than not, in my opinion.
Like way more.
Way more. Way more. I worked with a college golfer at the University of Missouri years ago, and I told her my story about throwing up, and she said, "Oh my gosh, I thought I was the only one," because before she walked to the first tee, she'd be looking around and being like, "Where's the trash can?" in case she has to go throw up before the games, you know. And that goes down to a 10-year-old that would look at throwing up before games on a little AAU game. And so it breaks my heart, you know, because what happens, a lot of what I felt and those two athletes felt, this goes to my next, they felt all alone. I felt all alone. And that, you know, that was the other thing I would tell myself, that I'm not alone in this.
Yeah. And anxiety is it's something that is growing in our country.
Yeah.
How can we, okay, so one, it's okay to be anxious. From what I understand about an anxiousness or anxiety, it is okay, but it's also our body's way of dealing with some energy that we don't fully understand, or you know, Michael Jordan was always talk about like, hey, if I'm not nervous before a game, it means I don't care. So as soon as I stop getting nervous, now anxiety and nervousness in the same world, but not the same exact thing, right? Maybe anxiety being more intense of a nervousness or a pressure.
Can I jump in?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Well, I think great point, because I think it's a matter of reframing that, because anxiety and nervousness feel the same.
Yeah.
And really, and what I talk to people about now, it's really our body signaling to ourselves that this is important.
Yeah.
And that it's actually a performance enhancer.
Yeah.
Because as that blood's flowing and pupils dilating and you're dialing in, and I'm going to use that energy to perform better on the court.
Yeah, and when we don't understand it, it freaks us out.
And that
right?
Right.
And then you freak out and you're like, oh my gosh, something is totally wrong here.
Correct. Right.
And so something must be wrong with me.
Correct.
So part of the message that you also needed to hear was that something's not wrong with you.
100%. Absolutely. That was.
And I think about, like, you know, all of the players that I've trained, and now, you know, my daughter's almost 13, my son's almost 11. They're getting into the competitive soccer world.
Right.
And we see so many parents they have the nervous energy along with their kids, or maybe their kid doesn't have it, and the parent is the one on the sideline just going nuts because they have all this nervous energy, and they almost think that, you know, if their kid makes a mistake, that it's not okay.
Right.
You know, that there's something that's not okay, and it's just, the energy is not a bad thing.
No.
It's just the way that we frame it. If we don't understand it, it feels bad.
Well, it's a biological process. It's actually a gift to help us perform.
Yeah.
Better, you know. And I think when we understand it, when I understand that, I don't fight it, and I use the energy versus being used by that energy, and it just kind of really sucking the joy and life out of the game. Yeah, you know. So yeah, those are all good points. But I would say, just to reiterate that, you know, having that nervousness, that anxiety. Is okay. I can still play well. 2, I'm not alone. And third point, which is, I inverse these, but the first thing that came to my mind when we were talking about this was that there's nothing wrong with me. Yeah. Because I looked around, you know, when I played, like I was one of the better players, and I had this intense war going on inside me. And I thought to myself, wow, something must be wrong with me. I'm the one that has the problem, because I look at all my teammates and every other athlete I knew didn't struggle with this.
They seemed like they were okay.
Yeah, they seemed like they were doing great. And I'm actually a pretty good player. Yeah. And I'm trying not to puke for, you know, before games and so on. So really to understand that nothing was wrong with me in that, you know. And so those three are obviously intertwined and so on. But that would be the primary message that I would give myself, and that I've shared with my kids and with other people, because I think I'm not all that unique in it, in dealing with all that stuff.
But you felt that you felt alone. That's part of it, right? And so that's part of also why we're doing this, is because we want people to understand that, while we are unique beings in terms of who we are and our experiences and our backgrounds and our gifts and all that kind of stuff, there's a lot of similarities that we have as just the human race and the things that we experience. And we want to give some clarity, because one of the reasons that we're doing Better Men All Together, that we've done on retreats, that we do connect on a monthly basis, is because guys feel alone.
100%.
And I'm sure women do too, but I'm not going to speak to that just because. But guys feel alone.
Right.
And when you feel alone, you operate in a different mode than when you feel connected, when you feel supported, when you feel like you've got a team.
Right.
And
we get isolated. What happens is we're isolated in our own thoughts, and when we deal with that, it just goes down these rabbit holes that really aren't helpful and productive.
Yeah.
You know, like we've talked about before, just like I think being connected, it disrupts that isolation of being an individual. Like, and we're designed to be connected.
Yes.
That's one of the greatest.
Yes. Not just women designed to be social and connected.
All of us.
Men as well.
All of us.
Yes,
the human
all of
race,
us.
we are designed to connect. A child cannot function and survive without connection to their mom and their primary caregivers. Like, they'll die.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so we are designed to connect, and not connect superficially, but connect to have greater meaning and purpose, because that's where it comes from, is in the intimate connections and so on. And so the problem is, one of the problems that I see it is that to connect with others, it requires a vulnerability and it requires a courage to actually admit, you know what, I'm not feeling really good, or I got to throw up, coach, or I'm struggling, or I go to see a sports psychologist, or to actually admit that something's going on here that I want help with. Yeah,
because that isolation too leads to, normally when we're isolated, we don't think the best thoughts about ourselves.
No, right.
Right? And that's almost like where the lies and the doubt and all of the negative stuff creeps in, and then we don't have any connection that can disrupt that, like you were saying, can disrupt that feeling of isolation, and then it's me against everybody else, or everybody else is against me, and then there's something wrong with me, and then it's
snowball.
That's a dark place, man. And that's what depression does to us, right? It isolates us. So if you think about it, you know, depression makes us want to isolate and not connect with people.
Right.
And then if we're already feeling that way, like the times where I felt depressed in my life, I'm definitely not connected to people. I feel alone.
Right, right.
Whether it's as a leader within my business or even in my family or whatever. So the connection is the huge part.
Right.
But you feel like when something's wrong with you, you can't connect with people.
Right. I don't want to connect with people.
Yeah.
I just isolate and I shrink back and so on.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's one of the great struggles that we're all facing now is that. And the other thing I would throw in there, Colin, is that the distraction piece. We distract ourselves with our phones and all the social media, so we don't have to feel that. We feel a fake connection to people online. That is really damaging. And it's not the real connection. You know, the real connection is being in person, so on, and not on the phone and looking at likes or liking somebody or going back and forth. Now that could be okay. I'm not totally against it, but that doesn't replace this.
It's a superficial connection.
Correct. Yeah.
It's not a deep, meaningful, lasting connection that we get in face-to-face interactions.
Right.
But face-to-face interactions are hard.
Correct.
They're difficult because we don't know how it's going to go. Right. And so when we get scared or we have emotions that we don't understand, to bring those in front of, and to be a man and bring those in front of somebody else, you kidding?
Right.
Hell no. We'd rather be isolated.
Yeah, it's easier.
Except until that part where we feel that alone, where we're like, oh, we feel lost. Right. Because if you think about it, you know, like people traveling in packs, or like, you know, wolves traveling in packs, or whatever travels in packs, somebody gets isolated, they do feel lost. Where if they're on the same path with the pack, you don't feel lost because you got people with you.
Agreed.
And
How about you,
If-
man? Come on. How about you? How about you turn the?
Yeah. Yeah. No. I mean, and it's something I think that you've helped me. You've helped me stumble on. And this was a few years ago. If I had to tell my 20-year-old self something that would be massively impactful, was that it's okay to desire. That it's okay to want.
Right, like we've talked about, the wanter is broken.
Like my wanter was broken. I remember you first said that. I was like, "What the hell are you talking about? Your wanter is broken." I'm like, what? You have a wanter? What do you mean? But yeah, because like I grew up in the church that said, "Deny thyself, serve the church, serve other people, but don't serve yourself in any way."
Right.
And so even as I had desires of whatever, when you're a 20-year-old guy, basketball was a massive part of my life. And then, certainly also I wasn't dating Laura at that point, but, girls, come across the radar, and then you think about, money or whatever. And so it felt like all of that stuff was wrong for me to want. And so I think within me, because I honestly do have some big desires. There's some big things I want to do. Like I wanted to play Division I college basketball, even though nobody was recruiting me. We got married at a young age, and I wanted a family pretty early on, and I want to have financial resources to have freedom and to be able to do what I want to do and to give how I want to give. But like so much of that stuff seemed unattainable because I was not, like, that was a conflict of interest within me.
Right.
Because I didn't understand that it was okay to desire.
Do you think you could have been a better basketball player if that was free
100%.
to really name that desire?
Because I felt like it just made me play small. Like, don't shine too brightly, because you might, really what it felt like was, the message was, don't shine too brightly because you might outshine God. Which, it's impossible. I mean, right? But and this is my beef with any institution is right. It's play within our parameters, or else we have some sort of consequence for you that you're not going to like, right? So educationally, play within our parameters. Religiously, play within our parameters. Even with sports, play within our parameters, right? It's whatever. I don't want to say industry, but institution, man. It's just like it's.
You gotta play by their rules.
Yeah,
right?
it's encapsulated. It's not freeing. Although many of these institutions promise you freedom.
Right.
And I was just too damn good at listening to that,
Right.
And while any institution wants somebody who obeys well, and I think while there were really good things that I learned about Jesus, I now still value very much. But when it comes to the institution, I see it as a method of control more than anything. I think really when it has to come down to desiring more for myself in terms of financial resources and achievement, that's what I would want to say. It's okay to pursue that. Don't play small. Don't push it off. Don't allow your fear to dictate. Don't let the voices that say that that's too much, or that's too selfish, or that's too this or that. But being my authentic self, that's what I would have been like, oh man, that could have accelerated, some of the stuff that I'm going after now.
Does that, so do you share that with your kids? Like, do you encourage them to desire and to be like, can you feel that? Do you do that intentionally? Is that is that an intentional message that you give them? And
it's so weird though, because it's wired in me.
So you still have this voice
that
comes in that's kind of contrary,
but my kids will call me Mr. No. For the longest time would call me Mr. No, and I'm like, well, damn, that sucks.
Right.
Maybe your mom says yes to everything, right? So I feel like I gotta be, But then it was like, okay, well, why is my first reaction no? Like, to whatever it is. Can I have a cookie? No. Right. Can I go do this? No. And then I look at my upbringing, and there was a good bit of that, right? And it was almost like the opportunities weren't there, or it wasn't just okay to desire and to go get.
Right.
And so it's really cool because, Laura and I have some awesome conversations about some of this stuff, and she's just like, dude, it doesn't matter. This is part of your operating system that we need to upgrade.
Right.
And it's like, okay, why do I do that? And then do I want to do that? Do I want my kids to feel the restriction that I felt? No. And so then it becomes, well, I need to do better for myself so I can do better for my kids. That's also part of this, right? Like the biggest part of this is not just for ourselves, it's for the impact that we're making.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, this isn't getting together with you or other guys, isn't just for this closed little group. It's really to how can we then impact our larger community. I think it starts with ourselves, then our family, then our close friends, and then it snowballs out. I think a lot of people, or at least from where I came from, like it was I'm going to say self-help or personal development, oftentimes feels like it was very restrictive and just about me and my own, development and growth. But no, like I think that falls short of really the mission, and what our mission is really to impact and connect, in a larger community.
Well, because it means more.
100%. Yeah.
Like for us to do it for ourselves is good.
Right.
Like there's no question. But it's this small of a change.
Right.
But if we know that there's greater meaning to it, then we open up more, and we're like, no, this means more.
Right.
Like if I don't hold myself to this promise or this commitment or hold to my accountability, it's not just impacting me.
Right.
It's impacting my family and then my friends and then my community. Because when you start seeing somebody change, and they're actually changing from the inside out, the ripple effect is for real.
It's enormous. Yeah.
And it's awesome.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you got it.
Well, I was going to say, I think too that our meaning as humans really comes from that connection, because it becomes outside of ourselves. As I get purpose and meaning to connect with others, my life has more significance because it's not just about me.
Yeah.
And it's not just about my family or my wife or my 3 boys. It's bigger than that. And back to the point, like we are bigger than that. We're bigger than ourselves.
Yeah.
And that ripple effect. That's probably the change that I've in my own kind of mindset the last year, is just really understanding the significance of the larger community and the larger connection.
Because think about this, the isolation makes you think that there's nothing beyond you.
Correct. Yeah.
And honestly, like our phones make us think that there's nothing beyond us.
Right.
And so it forces you into this self-preservation mode.
Yep.
Everything has to do with the self. When you look at somebody else, you're comparing it to you, and it's this. It totally narrows the focus on the truth that we are connected and meant to be connected. It removes that and makes us think, well, we're isolated and we're meant to be isolated.
Right.
And so there's a lot of studies coming out now that are talking about anxiety and depression in like 20-year-olds, 25-year-olds who've grown up with technology and grown up with this phone in their face all of the time.
Right.
And it's alarming.
Yeah.
It's alarming.
Scary.
Yeah, because there's several things. Sometimes people can be whoever they want to be behind a screen. Right. So if they're fake tough, they can talk all kinds of shit behind the screen. And never feel any repercussion or consequence from it.
Right.
And there's a lot of kids that do that to each other. Cyberbullying, if you will, but it happens a lot.
Right.
And so if you're on the other side of that and somebody's saying all this nasty stuff to you and you can't do anything about it, in fact, maybe you don't want to snap back at them, but you don't know how to combat it, then it gets into this place where you feel like you've got all this emotion within you and you can't do anything about it.
Right.
And that's, I believe, what leads to more anxiety and depression than anything in these young people.
Right, absolutely.
And so then we got to get connected. And so this is the thing, you know, we do Better Man Connect. We have a session going tonight, and we've got 30, 40, 50-year-old guys that are like, I just need to be a part of a place that welcomes men and that welcomes my story as it is, and a place where I feel like I can be myself and also look to improve myself. And so that's why we started that.
What I think too, it's in that environment, we work hard at an absence of judgment.
Yes.
You know what I mean? To really that people can be themselves. And because the world just, it feels like, judges us and beats us down, and it's hard. Like, life is hard. One of the things I told my boys growing up was like, hey, we need to support each other and be with each other, because there's a lot of people out there that don't care about you. So I want our family unit of 5 to be our biggest cheerleaders, because it's hard out there in life, you know, and so on. So anyway, that's why I think that it's amazing the depths of what some of those men share at those, and not amazing at the stories, just that the courage they display to just say, man, I struggled with this for years, or I'm still struggling with that for years. And then what happens is, and you know this guy, yeah, me too. Or yeah, this is what I'm struggling with. And all of a sudden it's just like, you know, and just this organic connection happens. It feels in many ways like magic. Like we're just kind of there and adding some things and so on.
But the weight of carrying those things that you're struggling with and not feeling like it's okay to let it out or let it go or to talk about it with somebody. That weight is so heavy.
Absolutely.
I mean, if you can think about playing a basketball game and you've got a 100-pound backpack on.
Right.
I mean, the way that you will perform is wildly different than if you were just your free self, just in a uniform.
Right.
And I think most men are living some version of that.
Right.
Unless they understand how to process what's going on, and they have men to be connected with.
Right.
You know, and that is one thing I will say about our sports, is that typically, you know, at least we have a locker room. At least we can talk some shit and joke around and have some sort of camaraderie within the locker room. And as you get older and you get into the mix of life and you get a family like that, it feels like that locker room goes away.
Absolutely does. Yeah.
And then it's like, well, dang, who am I doing this thing with?
Right.
You know, part of the coolest thing, like, and I'm sure you won some championships. Like, the championship is cool, but the journey's the best part. Like, we hear so many pros talking about that now. It's the journey, it's the pursuit. Right. And so that's what we're trying to facilitate. I think in wrapping things up a little bit here, just like say again what you would tell yourself and the most important part of that, just as a recap.
Right. Number one, there's nothing wrong with me to be anxious, or anybody for that matter. If anybody's anxious, there's nothing wrong with them. That's a normal human emotion. Number two, you're not alone. You know, we all have struggles, you know, whether you're a 5-year-old, a 10-year-old, or a 55 or 60-year-old, and that it's okay to be anxious, and that you can perform well with that anxiety or nervousness, and that's your body. It's a gift by the body. That's what I tell people. It's a gift to help you zero in and get dialed in.
And even with that nervous, or even with that anxiety, it's not just about performance. It's also, you can still be connected.
Correct. Yep.
You can still be connected, not isolated. I think for myself, I think I would just, you know, don't play small. It's okay to want. It's okay to desire. It's okay to go after things. You're not going to outshine God.
Amen to that.
Yeah. Well, look, so this is episode 1 of the Better Man Connect podcast. We hope that you tune in. Please subscribe, share, like, all the stuff. And if you've got some questions in the comments, drop them to us. We're excited to go on this journey with you. Good stuff.
Absolutely.